Hi, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Spilling the Tea on GovCon. I'm Teresa Moon, Director of Market Strategy for Parabolis. We are the preeminent partnership for government contractors, providing holistic support that includes a line of credit to fund your growth. The purpose of this podcast is to assist small businesses with success in the federal marketplace by introducing them to industry experts and resources that they may not otherwise know about. Today, we welcome Hannah Romick, CEO of Conscient Strategies, based in Chevy Chase, Maryland. Hannah and I hit it off fast after being introduced a couple months back, and I was inspired
Mhm.
by our chat to have her join us on the show and share her energy, expertise, and her journey with our audience. So, welcome to the show, Hannah.
Thank you so much for having me, Teresa. I'm so excited to talk.
Absolutely. And, Fridays are my favorite for this very reason. So I'm excited to have you here. And I'm excited to be able to share a lot of what we talked about in preparation for this conversation with our audience because it's a little bit different and it's super pertinent given where we are in the year and given where we are with
Mhm.
the way we're doing business in the federal marketplace right now.
Yep.
But before we get started, I always like to start the show by having our guests share a little bit about yourself with the audience, how you got into your line of work, your expertise in the federal marketplace, and core services of your business.
Yeah, happy to introduce us. I'm Hannah Romick. I am the CEO of Conscient Strategies. As you just said, we are a business consulting company that brings expertise in human behavior. I like to say so the solutions stick.
Love
For
that.
us, our favorite thing is when our clients can take the advice we give them and they can run with it on their own. So we do work relating strategy, org design and operational effectiveness, and leadership and culture. I think of leadership and culture as the like how we do things, the rules
Mhm.
of the road for every company.
Yeah.
And they really serve as the trampoline to propel organizations forward. So for us, it's most effective. And I'm sure we'll talk about this over the course of the next few minutes. It's most effective when you can take the behaviors you want and you can relate it back to the strategy that you've set for your company.
I think that is an important note because we're all human and we're all
Yeah.
unique. And because of that, you have a better advantage in a lot of different normalizing of practices when you
Mhm.
recognize the fact that we don't all think the same. We don't all behave the same in response to a similar stimulus. And so it's super important to take that into account when you're delivering information. And, as someone who's, very involved in the communication efforts of my
Mhm.
company, a
Yep.
lot of time goes into, what are the behaviors and the responses that I can assume from, even something as simple as geographic location, but types of industries and different
Mhm.
personalities, all those types of things. So this is fascinating to me. So I'm excited about it. And I'm
Yeah.
glad you're here. The great part about it too, which, gives me a lot of excitement in having this conversation with you too, is that when we talked about it, we titled it Reignite the Spark. And I love that.
Mhm.
A lot of people right now in a level of uncertainty where we found ourselves in terms of things are changing and moving in one direction and people sometimes don't know where to turn. It's a great place or a great sentiment to lead the discussion with because we've got a positive methodology to present to you today with Hannah's expertise. And so I'm excited for your insights with that. So we'll get started. So, as you see it, with the changing landscape that we have right now in the federal market, what are some of the recommendations that you're offering to businesses that are looking to rethink their way of doing business? Because things may have changed.
Yeah, I would think things have changed for almost every business in the last 6 months, even if all of their contracts have remained the same. Maybe some of their customers have shifted. Maybe there's been a restructuring within the agency. Certainly on the civilian side of the federal government, it is completely it's like shit. I think of it when I go to the gym and they have those sliders and you have to like slide around. So similarly, like our federal government is like one big slider and people are trying to figure out what's up, what's down, and I think there has been some calming down in the last month or so, but yet I think in life continues and things are going to continue to shift over the next few years, no question about it. And so what's most important in this time is, 1, make sure to mark you as a company. What do you stand for? What's most important to you? And what are your service offerings? And be really clear about that. And understanding who you are as a company only helps you present yourself to the outside world that much better. So you know that better than anyone, Teresa. And strategically, it's so important to have that awareness and to be able to communicate that down to your employees, to your customers, and to be creative in how you think about those services within this shifting landscape.
I agree with you 10,000%. And it's funny enough, I was reading an article right before we got on today, and a lot of it was surrounded around, really understanding what your North Star is and what does that
Mhm.
mean, and
Yep.
being okay with having it something that can be not so much your North Star, but your ability to redefine the problems of your clients or the people that you work with so that you can reshape how you fit into the solution of the problem
Yep.
there. And
Mhm.
so it's so funny. It's like kismet that you're talking about
Yep.
this right now because I literally was making notes. I'm sitting right next to me of, some of the ways that from a communication standpoint,
Mhm.
that's a positive and how, even in a small company, it's important for everyone to be standardized in the way that they talk about the things that you do, whether it's providing goods or services or whatever it
Yeah.
is. If that thread doesn't start at one end and go all the way through to the other, then there's misrepresentation of that
Correct.
in some
Yeah.
capacity. And so some of that is a breakdown. Then you talk to a client and the client's like, well, this is what I think you do. And
Correct.
so I find that
Yeah.
super fascinating. And it's such an important part of your ability to gain more work for, to your point, if you have to shift and move into something else and you're not on a standardized plane with the communication efforts, it could be difficult for the team to defend or support one another and justify
It's
the capabilities.
It's so difficult, especially in a small business. It's fundamental because one contract really does shift the way in which your performance is over time. And
Mhm.
so, especially when you're a small business, really being so strong in who you are as a company, making sure you understand the transferable skills across agents, especially right now. What are those service offerings that could translate to other agencies across the federal government? And where do you need to start thinking about a pivot? If you need to pivot into the commercial space, what does that
Mhm.
look and feel like? And how can you represent yourself in both? Because there's such different marketplaces. How do you represent yourself? And how do you have
Right.
your team represent yourself?
Absolutely. And we're going to talk about that a little bit, but before we do that, I know that you have some strategies that deliver to the teams that you work with. So, how do you help your team internally to your company, but then also those that your other businesses that you're working with? How do you help them reconnect to their purpose, to their north star, and stay
Yeah.
motivated through all of this change and transformation that we're talking about right now?
Well, some of it is exactly what we just said. You gotta reignite that spark. You gotta bring everybody together, make sure everybody's on the same page and there's alignment, but especially at the top and then all the way through the organization. You gotta test that out in different ways. And so we have different listening techniques to really listen to employees, understand what's on their mind. And I think that's really one of the biggest magic like, fundamentals. I don't wanna call it a magic pill because that sounds negative, but
I
it's one
think
of
it
those,
sounds fabulous. Are you kidding?
but it's one of those, magic yeah, give your team a magic pill,
Yeah.
there. That
HR might frown on it, but it would make for a much funner work experience. Mo better.
seriously. But it really, you can get that motivation and that excitement, and I really love when I see leaders take the time to listen to employees up, down, and across an organization and really hear what's relevant for them. They're the ones who are gonna be at the front lines with the customer, they're gonna understand where you can flex, where you can't, they're gonna understand what are some of those creative ways in which you can really position the company internally and externally to ensure success through downturns.
I love that you present that too, because I think anyone that's listening, no matter how small or large their organization is, can relate to this. And
Yeah,
I love that you put at the forefront of it that they are listening exercises where you hear them, because
yeah,
those are two different things. And it's very
totally
um,
different.
it's very likely that a lot of
Mhm.
people might be trying to listen, but they aren't actually hearing what people are saying. And it is very common. It's not a knock on people.
No.
It is just the way that it is because we all
Yep.
we're wired differently. We have our own agendas, especially as a business
Mhm.
owner. We kind of, and I'm saying this not from experience, but thinking in terms of businesses that I've worked for, they have an
Sure.
agenda of what they see for the trajectory of their business.
Yep.
And sometimes they think that everyone's just going to fall in line with it because they're passionate
Mhm.
about it. And so
Yep.
I think that leads very well into our next question about how business leaders themselves, outside of the listening and the hearing portion of it, how can they introduce the
Yeah.
transformation or whatever it is that the adjustment into the process of the business itself and maintain a positive work environment? Because with change, you know, comes change, right? There could
Mhm.
be change in workforce, there could
Mhm.
be change in where you're working or who you're
Mhm.
working with in terms of clients.
Yep.
So, what are some techniques or some of recommendations that so business leaders can be on the upside of it? Because change, people are afraid of it. And I mean, those who
People
embrace it,
hate it.
right.
People
You know,
hate so we are creatures of comfort. Our brain is wired to be in a place of comfort and do the same thing over and over, believe it or not. And our business environment, our life environment, like it is I don't I mean, with AI, with everything that's coming out in the world, like it is faster and faster. And you got
mhm,
to figure out how to trick your brain into keeping up with all the things. And so one of the things that we do a lot with our clients and our customers is we work with them on one, understanding that brain science a little bit. So there is leadership is usually ahead of the curve, and it's literally a curve that we go through a change process where
mhm,
we are like, oh, disruption, oh, I hate this. And then we're like, oh, okay, maybe it's not so bad. And then we get a little curious, and then we kinda go through the loop all over again. So we need to
mhm,
understand that business leaders are usually ahead of their teams on that. So when I love it when our clients say, "Why won't people just do what I tell them to do?" And it's like, "Well, they haven't gone through the curve yet."
right,
And then or maybe they don't understand what's in it for them.
right.
And then the other thing is to do it in small little chunks. When you make smaller changes more repetitively, it's easier for people to come along for the ride. And then last but not least, it's fundamental is find the quick wins. Listen, hear what they say, and find a way to respond back and turn it into a win for the company so people feel as if there's this repetitive win and that
Mhm.
they're being heard. And so if you can get the small quick wins and you can get the small little pace of change, it usually drives a faster and accelerated transformation within your organization.
Do you find that your line of work is heard better, or not heard better, but received better, or that you're getting reached out to faster from larger organizations or smaller? Because I've had both experiences. I
Mhm.
worked for, a Fortune 100 company when I started my career, and things like this were already in place. You had a booklet, you had 55 training videos. You were indoctrinated from day one through the first
Sure.
2 weeks of in-office training, and then a couple months later you got out of office training and in the field training and all of those types of things, so they can make sure that at least the top tier process of understanding what the priorities of the company are and how to speak about those and how to interact with people who want to do business with you. Do you find that model lends itself to having someone like you and your expertise come in and help through the change process? Or because in my experience with small business owners, because we work with a lot of small business owners, they're a
Yeah,
little bit more shy to, bring someone else in. They tend to
of
think
course.
sometimes that they can do this on their own. So, how do you break that barrier with business owners that know that they need you and know that they need what you're offering, but might not want to let go of the reins enough to let you tell them how to do it?
Well, one, I never tell anybody how to run their business. That's, like, against the
Right.
credo, and that's why I think we're differentiated from many of the other consulting companies, is
Okay.
at the end of the day, like, our methods and our approach are based in human behavior and based on
Hmm.
whoever is leading the company, and as you said a number of times, like, everybody's different, so, like, it's
Hmm.
not gonna be the solution. Like, we don't come in with the we'll come in with frameworks, we'll come in with data, we'll come in with ideas, but we work with startups all the way to global multinationals, and our approach really does work at every life cycle moment within a
Hmm.
company's life cycle. And what's nice about it is the way in which we work with our clients is one, they're experts in their business always, and the decision, they need to own the decision. So anytime we'll bring an idea, we'll bring a recommendation, we often bring multiple different recommendations so that they then can have the agency and the ownership to drive the company in the direction that they feel is best for them. And so
Mhm.
that's where I think no matter your size, we can work in partnership to ensure that you really are growing in the way you wanna grow, that
Mhm.
you are showing up in the way you wanna show up. So and I think that's the other part that we do
Mhm.
really well is we give feedback to leaders in on very sensitive things, like, "Your team doesn't receive that in the way you thought that they were receiving it, so let's try it this way and see if that works better." And so then that's how we can connect the behavioral things with the strategic items to really drive.
I love that, and I can relate to that because, especially now working for a small business, we have the luxury of being able to be easily able to communicate with each other and share, and, we can have an all hands meeting in the same room. It doesn't have to
Mhm.
be virtual or whatever because there's so many of us. And so we're still at the size where those face-to-face interactions are a little bit more intimate. So for those businesses that need your services, how are you marketing that out? Like, how would someone find out about what you do? Because I know
Good
that you
question.
are different than other consultants that may say that they're in the same industry as you, and I understand that. So it's not so much the differentiator part of it, but how can someone know this is something that I need? And Hannah and her team are the ones that I need to reach out to.
Great question. I This is like every small business's big question, right? And I think we continue to navel gaze while we're implementing because we try to practice what we preach. So I would say you can reach out to us on the internet. There's email addresses. We've got our fun website and it's got all the contact information you could possibly need. You have been
Mhm.
sharing our LinkedIn, so I'm generally very responsive on LinkedIn if people reach out to me there. And honestly, I just love talking to people and just hearing what's going on. So sometimes we might not be the right fit, and we have some incredible peers in the marketplace. So don't misunderstand. We might not be the best for everybody, and the work we do really does transform the way people think about their business and show up
Mhm.
in the marketplace so that they really can accelerate the pace of the growth that they're looking to achieve.
Yeah, I mean, I see a huge opportunity for, businesses that work with us. I'd love to be able to offline figure out a way that we can connect you into our intimate network because I think that this is, a huge value add in being able to help a business that might have had some, bumpy roads over
Mhm.
the last several months or even the last several years. I mean, just the bit of
Sure.
change that we've had now doesn't mean that this is the only time that they've seen it because as we've
No.
spoken about on this program before,
Yeah.
pendulum always swings back and
Oh,
forth. It isn't this
yeah.
isn't new, and people newer in it might think that this isn't something that happens, but rest assured that when the pendulum swings one way, it will come back. It doesn't
It
stop
will
in the
come.
center very often or for very long if it does, but this swinging back and forth is something that that's we call it the ebb and flow,
Sure.
but you've gotta be able to handle it if you wanna get involved in this market because
Yeah.
to your point earlier, it is different than the commercial market and the way that we
Mhm.
do business, the way that we interact with each other, and then it
Yep.
doesn't help that each agency has a different way of doing things as well,
Oh,
so
no, it's not.
yeah, it's a constant, learning process. And,
Yeah.
based off of all of the things and the recommendations that we've talked about in terms of, you know, being able to redefine your purpose, introducing transformation into the process and maintaining positivity. Do you have a, shining light example from your own experience of a business that you've assisted recently that may have, you know, come to you? I would love it too, even if it was, like, kind of resistantly coming to you of, like, "I think I could do this on my own, but I'm noticing that we've got some resistance internally and we need help with this." And then,
Yeah.
obviously, I want a happy ending. I'm not one of those people that's like, "Tell me give me your biggest dumpster fire."
Oh
I don't wanna know
gosh.
that.
That would require another hour. And you know what's funny? It's everybody's definition of dumpster fire is different. So,
Right.
one, from our own experience, like we have over the last 8 months, like almost all of our contracts have been canceled in some form or fashion. So we had an HHS contract, FDIC, lots of promise we were supposed to do work there, and circumstances that opportunity got canceled. Many of the things that were in RFI have just kind of disappeared out, and the program managers. So So certainly we've been trying to be very creative in how we're working in the GovCon sector and moving ourselves forward. I've reached out to all we're a sub-only government contractor, admittedly, and so reached out to some, and now I'm positioning myself as a prime on some opportunities, which admittedly scares me a little bit,
I
full
get it.
disclosure. But we're also positioning ourselves in the commercial sector to really double down there and expand there. So happy to talk with people offline about what that looks and feels like. We do a lot of work in the merger acquisition space, helping with the integration of companies. And so we've had a number of GovCons reach out. They're looking because of the way their contracts are performing at acquiring has become more and more important, and so we've
Mhm.
been working with some of them, and you can certainly tell that acquisition is not has not necessarily been part of their strategy in the past from a growth perspective,
Mhm.
and so part of it is the education element, and part of it is the working on, "Okay, so this is not the way to bring a team into your team." And there are so many considerations from a GovCon when you're buying another company and their employees are much more customer aligned than company aligned. The badge flipping culture within the GovCon space is such a thing when you're a prime and a sub that really plays a lot into some of the dumpster fires that we have worked through, if you want to
Yeah.
call them that.
Such a positive term. We've all been there. I mean,
We
come
have
on,
all
people, don't
worked
take
in
offense to it.
really
You take offense to it
challenging.
because you've been there, not because you haven't.
Correct. Well, and if you haven't been in a dumpster fire, then, have you even lived? I mean,
Exactly.
be honest. So, I think it's amazing how many and it always gets down to the fact that people are trying so hard to do the right thing, and they end up tripping over their own feet, and so it's just a matter of making them wear the right shoes and walk in the right direction is usually what our work comes down to. So,
I love that. It's
without spilling
look
too much
that.
tea without spilling too much tea, but
Well, that's what we're here to do, so, I love
I
that
know.
portion of it, and yes, of course, don't give away any of your secret sauce because we expect people to reach out to you to find that out.
Yeah.
I know you're super passionate about what you do, and I know not only is it helpful to other businesses, but knowing what you know is helpful to you being able to endure in a market that isn't very easy for your own business as well. What's your favorite aspect of your work? What do you like the most about what
Mm,
you do?
my favorite, I tell people so I was just talking about this yesterday. The Eeyores of the world are my
Yeah.
favorite clients.
Uh-huh.
And when I resisted going to Disney for a very long time, and those of you Disney lovers out there, come at me. It's cool. But I finally relented and went with my family, and when I saw Eeyore, you'll see I have a picture of me and Eeyore, and it was, like, one of my happiest days, and I love finding the cranky within people and helping them mitigate against it and really find the things to be excited about in life. So that for me is always, like, a
So
shining
you
day
like a
when
challenge is what I'm
I
hearing.
love cranky people and I love
So
helping
are you a
them.
Disney World fan or a Disneyland fan?
Okay, I've only been at Disney World.
Okay, perfect. I'm saying that because I live in Orlando. So, of course, I'd
There
be
you
like,
go.
"Why would you
Yeah,
go
I have
all the way
been,
out to LA for Disney when you could have just come down here?"
and I did.
Granted, the weather is a lot better out in Disneyland, but
Yeah.
the Disney
So,
World aspect is a lot better here.
yeah,
So
I believe you. I don't
and I'm
know.
super biased, so
Sure. And I don't know. My son is begging us to go to Legoland now, so that's latest.
that is I mean, that's a winner for a lot of I mean, my kids have been there several times, and so I get it, but it's in Lakeland or Winter Haven, and so it is literally right smack dab in the middle of the state for those of you who are not
Oh,
familiar.
nice.
So, there's not much around where
Oh,
that is, but,
noted.
yeah,
Noted.
it is a good spot. I my kids have
Noted.
very much enjoyed it, so
Okay,
and
well,
it gets you out of Disney, so it's not as expensive to do everything that there is to do there, so
got it.
just in case everyone else cares that's listening.
Yeah, no, we'll all take
And I'm
that
not
under
being paid
advisement.
by the city of Orlando. However, they should pay me for that because I did just drop a whole lot of goodness
Sounds like you just
for
got
the
a
state and
sponsorship
bringing our
offer.
more Northerners down here. That's what we need. No offense. Well, Hannah, this was
None
really
taken.
awesome. I
Thank you
I
so much, Teresa. It's
mine
super
and my
fun.
wheels were turning the whole time. I have so many people that I wanna introduce you to, and I think there's definitely a future for us to collaborate on some things because
Would
I
love
think
to.
what you do isn't just relevant today, it's something that's,
Mm,
enduring relevant because of the fact that businesses have to change in order to thrive.
yeah, as
And
do.
so, it's cliche, but if you're
Mm,
not changing, you're dying. And
mm,
whether it's personally or professionally or your
so
business
true.
or you, it
Yep.
applies all the way across the board. So I think what
Yep.
you do is awesome, and I've really enjoyed this conversation. So I hope you'll join
Likewise.
me and stay in touch, and we'll talk about what we're gonna do next together.
I'd love to. Thank you so much, Teresa. Please
Absolutely.
don't be shy. I love talking to people. It's a weakness. So anybody out there, reach out. We'll find time and we'll set everybody up for success.
I love that. So I encourage everyone to reach out to Hannah on LinkedIn and find a time to have a, discovery conversation with her about how she might be able to help. I also want to thank all of you sincerely for your time today. This has been an amazing conversation and I'm extremely grateful. As always, we pride ourselves on sharing the most insightful and exciting people and information to help you better navigate your GovCon journey. If you like what you heard today, you can see all of our past podcasts, which are archived on our Parabolas YouTube channel. Stay tuned for all of our future guests in the coming months as we help you grow to great heights in the year ahead. I'm Teresa Moon, and this is Spilling the Tea on GovCon. Have a great day, my friends.